Hey folks, welcome back to another OWTV interview. My name is Apostle, and joining me today we have a flex support from Extinction. It's Scuffed. Scuffed, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, Scuffed, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with your game, can you give us a little bit of introduction? Tell us who you are.
Yeah, I'm Scuffed. I'm a flex support player. I'm from NA. I'm from Texas. I used to play for Avidity, Green Fortnite, and Extinction now.
Perfect. So, if you don't mind, we'll just jump right into your most recent results because we saw some interesting gameplay this weekend from you guys in your match against GK Esports. So, first of all, how was the experience playing against what most people are considering a solid top three team in America?
I mean, they're really good. Obviously, they just have like 5 really quality players who have good hero pools, especially for the meta right now. And they obviously have like UV, who's insane at this Wuyang champ. So he's just been playing they've just been playing around UV on Wuyang, letting him do the most damage, and it seems to be working for them so far. It's very interesting playstyle and definitely different than like even the other top NA teams, Spacestation and Team Liquid. They have their own playstyles. They play more around Wrecking Ball, double flex support comms, whereas Geekay really likes this Wuyang, Lucio, Wuyang, other main support type of deal. And it's just different. They just play for their individual strengths a lot more, and it's interesting to see, and it's also kind of like inspirational in a way to like they don't have to play like the meta, like the hard meta best comp in the game to be the best in their region. So it's cool.
Right. Well, you were bringing up the Wuyang a lot, which is perfect because I actually do want to ask about the Wuyang for you guys specifically because on the first map of Samoa, we saw you guys start on the Winston Ana Wuyang here, playing into their Wuyang Lucio. So can you tell us a bit about how that matchup plays from your end and what's kind of important for the Ana to do in this matchup?
I mean, the basis of the Ana is mostly to keep that monkey alive, like when we're playing with the Winston. Compared to the Wrecking Ball, who's a lot more individualistic. That's why they play the Wrecking Ball with that type of comp. They don't really have to constantly pocket the Winston to keep him alive. Whereas we have the Ana to like kind of stay tethered to the monkey and just kind of farm nano as fast as possible is the end goal. Also, the antis are really good into that Wuyang Lucio comp. Obviously, they don't have the Kiriko. It was banned that map actually, but they don't even run it normally, right? So if you can land a purple, they have no counterplay to that, and that's kind of the angle. Is you look to get some space with your Winston, connect your Ana with him. If they try to force out the monkey, then you have your Ana pocketing him. If they try to go on the Ana, then the monkey comes back and helps them, and that's the basis of the comp. And eventually, you're trying to get nano, have nano before they have like the beat, the Wuyang ult, and just try to snowball from there.
Right. Now, with all that being said, it sounds like you guys might have had an advantage on paper. So what kind of was the problem here on the map?
I mean, in the end, they're just they're a better team. Like from player to player, not even just like individual skill, but like how they play together. They work off the side fight really well. They know who is needed and who stays grouped together at all times. And I think the big thing is they work around UV really well. Like they know he's the carry of that comp. Whereas in our comp, we have a bunch of people who can carry, right? We have like Vision, we have me who can carry, we have the monkey that can carry, like a bunch of things that need to go right in that comp. And when they are going right, it's gonna get more value than their comp at its core. But they just work off each other really well. UV, he was like flanking pretty much that match, like on Volcano. He was just like he would go to the side, kind of force the tracer out with his groups. So like they would +1 the side, which is just like they have an extra person there, so you really can't fight it. No matter how good you are, you're just gonna lose that because they have an extra person. And then eventually they would wrap around and get to me, and they would threaten me, and eventually they just would find some opening to find a kill there.
Right.
And that's just what they do best, right? They work off UV. UV is a really good shot caller. Whereas when I'm on the Ana and King's over on the side fighting two people, like we have to communicate to each other through walls. Like it's all about what we're talking about. Whereas they can they can see it on their screen as what they need to do next, and they know the triggers a whole lot better. So they know when the tracer uses recall, they can do X, Y, or Z, and they're just so much better at that and recognizing those type of triggers.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you have a lot of carries on the team, but you do think that you yourself are the carry. Well, not the carry, but one of the options. And, looking at the gameplay we've seen for you, I can definitely believe that. So I kind of want to ask, do you think that there's a way for Extinction to kind of have a similar play style where if they like just put more resources into you, you can kind of be the UV role for them?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I particularly also enjoy Wuyang. It's just we went that separate direction. You know, I have a really good Kiriko on me, and Kiriko Wuyang's a really prominent comp right now. So it doesn't make too much sense to put me on the Wuyang when we're playing all these Kiri Wuyang comps, on a Wuyang comps. Like those are the comps that kind of work better towards us. And I say carry in like that's what the character does. Like Ana's a carry character, right? Like you're not playing Ana when you have a bad Ana player. Like you're not, that's not the goal, because that character, you need to hit your cooldowns, you need to pop off to get the value that the character is built to do. So like a player like UV is great on Ana because he's such a playmaker, right? So that's just what I mean when I say carry role. But yeah, I think, you know, if they can put resources into me, I can totally carry any given match.
Okay, now moving on to the next map of Suravasa. Here's where we saw a Sojourn ban come in from you guys, and they ended up playing Freya instead. So is this kind of the hero that you were hoping they would pull out in response to the Sojourn ban, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking for anything in particular. Mostly the Soj ban is to counter out that we were trying to pick Hog in that match, just because we think it works really well into their comp, especially when they're not abusing things like the Ana and the Kiriko. When they're not playing that really greedy backline, you can play Roadhog and kind of force them to come to you, right? Like that's the whole goal of their comp, is to eventually work their way past the tank to get to like people like me, like the flex support, or like the Wuyang in that case, like when we're playing Kiri Wuyang, right? And so we banned out the Soj to prevent the constant value that she gets just by building rail off of Roadhog, right? Roadhog's such a fat target. He's so easy to constantly build rail off of. Vision calls it the rail glitch, what Roadhog is, because the enemy Soj is just always going to have rail, and she's always going to be threatening someone else with it compared to just shooting at the Roadhog all game. So that feels really bad compared to the Freya, whereas it's also like a bit of Lethal's hero pool. Like, he really prefers that Soj and doesn't really like Freya at all. Like even last stage, he was trying to force a lot of the cast, a lot of just different hero picks. So we wanted to, force him off of comfortable picks. And at the same time, we were playing for a Roadhog value in that way.
Okay, so I'm guessing that the Roadhog value you're talking about, that also kind of goes into the Kiri Lucio that you guys ended up running?
Yeah. I think we were on Kiri Brig towards the end, but we played a bit of Kiri Lu too. And the whole idea with the Lucio is that you speed the Roadhog around and try to like just put him in the most threatening position possible to make them look at the Roadhog, right? If they're looking at the Roadhog, it's valuable for your team because that guy's built to absorb damage.
Right.
And if everyone's looking at him, everyone else should be taking space around that. And the Hog should just be holding his heal button and not taking any damage, right? That's the end goal. And that's kind of what we were going for in that case. Sometimes with that comp, you try to play like the Kiri Wuyang. I think that also works really well because you can pocket that Roadhog with like the wave. That's a really, really strong combo where he can heal himself through the wave and he just constantly gets like max health out of that. But the Kiri Lucio also plays that same idea of like, look at a Roadhog or else this guy's gonna kill somebody.
Right. Now, moving on, but because I do still want to talk about that Roadhog a bit, because I'm really interested in what you're saying with it. On New Queen Street, we saw the Roadhog comp, along with a Symmetra and a Soldier being run throughout that map. So can you tell us a bit about how that comp works?
That it's a little bit silly, but it's really just trying to take all the angles on that map. New Queen Street's such a, I mean, it's pretty linear in the way that you can like, there's big old lanes, but they're all horizontal, right? So when you're coming out of spawn, you can kind of bypass a whole lane just by TPing, right? It's almost like Circuit Royale, like put on its side, right? So you just have these really big long lanes that like a person like Soldier can cross over in like 3 seconds, but he can also look down it. And if you're walking down the lane, it takes like 7 seconds to get across, right? So Soldier's really good at just finding those really big long angles and constantly like flipping the map in a sense that way. So we're playing for angles essentially with that comp. We're trying to put a Roadhog in really annoying prominent spots, like that big tunnel in the middle of the map. If you can get your Roadhog in there, it's like he can access pretty much every important sector of the map pretty quickly, right? And that's the end goal, right? Is to put your Roadhog in a really annoying, hard to reach spot and constantly be threatening the enemy squishies.
Right. Now, staying on the topic of Roadhog here, because you guys do seem to be running it more so than other teams in North America at the time being, what's your guys' kind of take on him? And are these Roadhog comps something that is brought forward by the coaching staff, or is it just because like Hitori's comfortable on it? Like, what's kind of the deal with it? And how does it kind of compare to the kind of public perception of Roadhog, where we're seeing a lot of people are like saying that Roadhog is in his most broken state since like Hook 1.0, but looking at ranked data and stuff, his win rate is still sitting sub 50. So what's kind of the general feel from Extinction on Roadhog?
I think he's definitely in one of like the best spots he's ever been in. Like competitively, he's like a viable character, which I didn't believe at first, if I'm being honest. Like we saw it in Korea. I think it was like Team Hamburger or Cheeseburger, whatever.
Mhm.
They've been playing a good amount of Roadhog, and the first time we saw it, we were like, okay, this is a joke. Like this is like a maybe try to catch them off guard type of deal. But then we kind of realized it just has a lot of good matchups right now, and especially like I was talking about with the Wuyang, he works well in and against Wuyang. He's really good at absorbing that Wuyang damage, and Wuyang's really good at like chipping out the tanks, and like since he has such large damage, like it breaks through that armor really fast, and that's what tanks are really all built around, right? And Roadhog doesn't use armor, so he doesn't really have to worry about that. But a Winston, like when you chip out his armor, he can no longer really play the game. That's how we look at it in the pro scene. You try to get rid of the armor, and that's what Wuyang's so good at. So Roadhog both works well with Wuyang and against Wuyang, and so he's just in a good spot because of Wuyang in the meta, in my opinion. It's a little bit of his perks, of his buffs, obviously all of that, but he's a good Wuyang pick in general during the Wuyang meta. And I also think it punishes certain playstyles and hero pools. When you're looking to play that like ball, really divey style, Roadhog's so good because those comps aren't built to do a lot of damage. They don't, like when you're playing like Team Z, for example, they really like playing Wrecking Ball, Genji, Tracer. That comp doesn't do a lot of damage. They do a lot of burst damage, and they're really good at getting on somebody. So if they want to get on an Ana, they can do that pretty easily. They're just really mobile characters. But when you put a Roadhog on the middle of the point, they don't want to fight that guy. They're not good at it. They can all get one shot. They can all get hooked. And Roadhog also just has a really good matchup in the ball himself, like being able to displace and stun Wrecking Ball, one of its biggest counters. And the Wrecking Ball just can never really just shoot the Roadhog. Like the Roadhog's always going to win that type of trade. So we think, particularly in teams like Team Z and Geekay, when they're trying to run these Wrecking Ball comps and just look to kill your backline, we think Roadhog is a really good like just wall, like something that you like a brick wall that you have to somehow get your way around. So obviously, a team like Geekay good enough to work around it, but we think it is a viable comp, and definitely the best Roadhog's ever been in pro play, I think.
Okay. Now, you kind of touched on it that GK, they did kind of find a way to work around it. And we saw you guys respond by ending up swapping to Winston and Sim Freya. So was that just kind of trying to go back to something that you guys are more comfortable on, or was that also like more experimentation?
I mean, we're kind of just flailing around in that match, trying to find anything that sticks. Geekay is just such a good team that no matter what, if we got the best possible matchup any given day, if we're full counter copying them, they could still win. They're just that good. Like they just understand their characters that well. They have that much experience. They're just that good. But I do think like trying to find swaps, and when things aren't working, like in a match, you don't want to just die on that sword, right? You don't want to die on the Roadhog sword. So might as well try the stuff that we've been practicing. So yeah, obviously we have a lot more practice on things like Monkey, things in other metas that are prominent. And so we've been working a lot with that Monkey comp. So we try to make that work. And we think the Sim Winston is an interesting combo. It's very, very different than like your normal like Tracer Winston dive.
It seems almost antithetical on paper.
Yeah, but the way, and we learn a lot from like Korea. Like Korea is usually who we watch for that, and we've even seen them they've been running that. Like T1 has been running that type of comp, and essentially what they try to do is put their Winston in the most threatening position without having to use his jump. And that's like one of the big things that pros have always been taught to do, is like every time you see the Winston like set up his jump, like he jumps away but into a close spot, you try to punish that because then he doesn't have that cooldown on anymore. The TP kind of, it cuts off that CD cycle from being able to be punished. So you can put your Winston in a really strong spot, make them have to clear him out, but then the Winston already has jump to get away, to stay in, to do whatever. And that's the end goal with any sim comp, I think, is kind of put your tank in a really, put your tank or any like hit scan, like when the SSG is running the cast sim comps, like trying to put your cast in the most prominent position and most threatening position to threaten anything that's not a tank is the end goal, right? Because Overwatch, at its core, like if you want to just play it front to back and shoot the enemy tank, some comps are just going to be better at that than others, and that's what we're trying to bypass with that.
Okay. So again, you've mentioned it several times that GK, they are just a very good team, and it was a match that like I think you guys were always going to be like just paying them the respect that they have earned at this point. So when you play against like an opponent as tough as this, what type of lessons do you kind of take from a loss to a top team?
I think it's always really interesting to see how they punish certain parts of the map, and especially how they play to punish like things that you've done. So like sometimes I've learned that like TPs that will go unpunished against lower teams will go punished against those type of teams. Like they just learn that when you use a cooldown, they can punish that, and they'll go out of their way, like way further than you would ever think they would, like as a 3-man core to go clear you out and to make sure. So to be able to learn like what parts of the map they particularly like to play in, and what parts of the map they'll look to punish you from getting into to like prevent you. We can learn from that to be like, okay, we should never let a tracer play there because they don't let that guy play there. Like, I know when King plays a lot of these top teams, I often find him complaining a lot about how much they're turning him, how much they're sending like 2 or 3 people on him. Whereas when we play, a lot of times, especially against these top teams, it'll be like a 1v1 against the tracer, and that's what the tracer wants. So they're really good at this staying grouped together, listening to each other. And I think one of the biggest thing I learned from that match is how much they like poke up, like in your spawn. Like there's something in pro scene we call like zombie walking, which is like walking out of spawn with like outthinking. You're just like, you're thinking about ultimates. You're just pressing W and waiting for the next fight to happen. But like they'll be shooting you when you're supposed to be doing that. Like you'll see a Sojourn with rail standing at your spawn door, and like you can't walk out until your tank's been walked out. And so they make you have to group as 5, or else you're going to be dead.
It also kind of takes away your ability to get a breath in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like just stuffing them and making them constantly, or making anyone, us in this case, constantly think about, okay, where can we walk? What side of the map should we open up? Whereas other teams would let us walk any side. We get to choose, right? They don't let us get that choice. And I think that's the big difference for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on to some more general topics now, after getting all that insight in the match, can you tell us a little bit about just what your experience has been like on Extinction so far throughout the year?
It's been a very up and down year. I mean, I've been in OWCS for all 3 stages at this point. The first stage was definitely just like getting acclimated to being at the highest level. Even just like getting there in the first place, it took me by surprise of like, we just qualified. Like, the whole qualification system was very much a blur. It's just like, it happened in a weekend or 2. And once we qualified, it like took a second to set in that like I was there and like in the highest level of competition in North America, right? And ever since then, it's just been trying to level up from there, like get to be a LAN team, and eventually like, be on the likes of like Nightmare, who are constantly upsetting and like surprising people, and just like proving their skill amongst like the top of NA. And that's what we want to do, because we know we're capable of that. Like we played in scrims, we won scrims against the top teams. But we just need to be able to prove that in match, because it is a different beast when you're in match. You have a different mindset. Teams like Geekay, they play differently and better in matches. They play more concisely. Like they just don't. There's no gaps to be had.
Right. Now, with Extinction in particular, we saw a lot of changes going from stage 2 to stage 3. So can you tell us a bit about like how the team has kind of gelled at this point, and what it's been like for you to be adding like King, Vision, and Alba?
It's definitely a big change. It feels like a whole new team, to be honest. It's literally a whole new team from that stage 1 team, right?
Yeah.
It's just me from that roster. And it's been harder than I'd expected to like get used to new people, and like people like Vision and King, they've been playing at the highest level for a while, and they've had so many experienced teammates. And sometimes they'll be expecting things from like me and Alba, me and Hattori, that we're not used to being expected. Like the things like poking up and spawn constantly. Like they're always expecting us to put the gas on after we've won a fight to make it hard for them to take space. But sometimes me as a player, like I'm just not used to that level of intensity. I'm not used to keep on walking. Sometimes I just want to hold tab and be like, okay, well, what am I going to do next fight? What's my goal next fight? Like, but those type of players, like you need to just have that in the back of your head, not be actively thinking about that, and just let it pass into your head while you're shooting them in their spawn. And so that's probably one of the biggest things this year, or this stage, has been like getting used to and playing at the same level of King of Vision, because they expect a certain pedigree. They expect you to be with them. They don't expect you to have to like tell them certain things or say certain things in columns. They just expect it to be naturally happening. So a lot of it is just gelling together, and especially like not playing with Nenwai for the first time in literally over a year. I'm so used to that guy being my main support. There's just certain things you've come to expect, and certain things that like he knows about me, right? Like in the Kiri Lucio comps, he was really, really good about calling out when he had a TP available for me or like a safe spot. He was really, really good about calling about like what we're gonna do during our beat turns. And Alba is just like he's a different player. He's not a worse player, but he's a different player, and he's not used to those same things. So I, as a player, have had to grow to be able to like accommodate that, and understand like what more is needed from me for the team.
Right. So, kind of talking about your growth, how do you think that you have changed as a player? Like, is it just like your mentality, your play style, anything like that?
Yeah, I think a bit of everything. I mean, my goal stage one was to get a more fleshed out hero pool. Like things like being able to play the on stage compared to just like my usual. Like I was really good at Juno and I was really good at Kiriko. Both of those I was really confident to play at the highest level and be be on the same likes as CJ and RuPaul. But things like Ana, I was much less confident. Ana's such a carry character, and it's so game sense related because you don't have those OP cooldowns like Juno being able to fly around and Kiri being able to TP through walls. I did to know exactly what I needed to do and know what I need to tell my team to do with me. Yeah, and a character like Ana, I've learned a lot about like you have to call for peel a lot. Like when there's a tracer on you, you have to yell at your team because you don't have the same liberty of on Kiriko of like, okay, this isn't a 1v1 I should be taking, let me leave. And you just disappear. You don't have that on Ana. You either hit the sleep or you ask for help. And so those have been big learning curves. I think also just like how to lead in game. It was something I was pretty comfortable and confident in before in like a Juno Brig meta, like that. And there's metas where you just play the same mirror over and over again, like the Juno Brig Malga meta, where I'm just so used to the same characters and how to play it. I was able to pretty confidently calm everything that was needed to happen. If we needed to flip with our Juno, what we were rallying, all of that. I was able to talk about that in game. But you needed to be able to do the same thing on Ana. It's just so much harder when there's constant swaps going around and constant different teams are playing different stuff. And that's just like how it is in a meta like this. So you have to be a much more well-rounded player and understand so much more about the game. So that's really what I've been striving to do and struggling with, to be honest. Like it's not easy when players like UV, they have multiple years under their belt and like the highest level of play. It's just like that stuff comes naturally to them, and it needs to come naturally to me if I'm going to be able to compete with them.
You seem to be catching up pretty quick though.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It takes a lot of hard work. I think Extinction is like the perfect place to be for me to be for something like this. We do like constantly VOD and scrim and just put in our max effort every season. Coaches like Ray Leaney and our other staff are constantly like pushing us to VOD. Every single time after and even in between maps, sometimes we'll be looking at stuff like there's always room to improve, and that's what I've learned so far. Is like if you're not playing the game, you should be watching the game. If you're not watching the game, what are you doing? Like, that's kind of my mentality now, and that definitely has changed from the start of the stage.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, I want to move away from OWCS specific things here just for a bit, because I think we'd be remiss to not mention your success in Calling All Heroes. In Calling All Heroes, you played for the Dilcucks. We can say their name here.
Awesome.
And you recently won the Summer Season Challengers. So can you tell us a bit about what that experience was like?
I love that squad. I mean, that's what CAW's been for me for the most part, just like a way to hang out with friends. At first it was just like where I found my friend group. Like a bunch of those people on that team are just like, they make up my friend group now at this point. And like going into champs, the team that I have is just me and a bunch of my friends. Like that's the end goal. It's just a way to hang out with friends. It's cool to be able to like earn money along the way and, get some notoriety from that. But I like when I pull up to those matches and those scrims, it really just feels like me and my
We're good.
yeah.
The last thing,
where was I when I cut off?
You had just started talking about like how you like found your friends and stuff with in like Calling All Heroes.
Yeah. So pulling up to the matches, like I think that's one of my favorite parts about the Calling Out Heroes scene and that team in particular is like it never really felt like I had a lot of pressure on me compared to OWCS. Like it really just felt like I was in VC hanging out with my friends. We could laugh about things, we could joke about things, and like even going into the matches, like we didn't do much preparation. Like we had maybe a scrim or two max. Like we weren't really like we were tryharding, but it wasn't the same as even like past Calling Out Heroes events where like I would try to set out time and like even take away scrims from like teams like Extinction, like my main teams, to be able to play with those Calling Out Heroes teams to practice synergy. But when it's just me and my friends, like especially on like the Dilcucks team, we just kind of mesh together. Like we understand how each other plays. I understand what Sniper's best characters are. I understand what Santana's best characters are. I'm also comfortable just like sharing playtime. Like me and Z are really good friends. Z is just as good of a flex support as I am, so I'm okay with swapping in and out with Z. Like whoever needs to play that day, whoever's available. Sometimes me and Z will both play, right? Sometimes Cinnabar isn't there, so sometimes I'll fill in for that, and it just works well. When you're sitting there enjoying the game with your friends, that's kind of the easiest time to be able to play out your best, if I'm being honest. And that's probably something I've tried to somewhat link to the OWCS play, is like just trying to feel comfortable, like on stage, like even if you're playing against a team like Geekay, like be able to laugh, be able to like I remember after that Suravasa game, like I felt like I was holding right click the whole game in the Suravasa against the Geekay, and I had like 22k healing in like 14 minutes. It was some crazy number. And at the end of that match, I was just like laughing. I was just like, oh my god, these guys don't stop doing damage, right? Like I never got the chance to shoot back because I was just healing my guys. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned from calling out heroes is just like if you're enjoying the game, you're gonna play better. If you're getting down in the dumps and like, God, they just shit on us that map, like you're not gonna be able to bounce back from that as easily. So just going like, okay, they shit on us that map, but here are like the takeaways. Here are the things that we could do better. We need to stop UV from doing so much damage. We need to get on UV more. Like being able to transfer your thoughts into actual feelings instead of just getting down in the dumps and like down on yourself for like not playing well on a certain map. That's a big thing I've learned from Dilcux.
Okay. You see, that was actually is one of the questions I was going to ask. Like, what are the things that you can kind of learn or take from one team to the other?
Yeah.
And so it sounds like what you're saying is like the biggest thing is just like your mentality and how you think of the game, right?
Yeah, and even like when you're going to a match, like we're going to these matches unprepped when we're on Dilcux, we don't even know what comp we're running sometimes. Like we'll just pull up and we'll be like, okay, these guys played this, what's good into that? And then we'll just play the comps. And that is a big difference between a team like Extinction and Dilcux is like Extinction, I know what comp I'm playing every time, and we do a bunch of prep work and we're always scouting what the enemy team's gonna play and what we should play into that. But it's a lot more on the fly, off the cuff when it's on the Dilcux. And I've learned that sometimes even works better, right? Like when you're not putting so much pressure and stress on yourself of like, okay, Kuffa does this, Kuffa does that. Like when you're just playing Overwatch, essentially is what we call it. Like just play Overwatch sometimes
Right.
is what you need to do. Because you're in your head and there's so many convoluted things that you need to try and understand. But at the end of the day, we're all Overwatch players. UV still has to hit the shot and you can still hit the shot on him, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, yeah, just focusing on playing Overwatch. That's been a big thing I've learned this past stage. Because I think last stage I had a lot of problems with like just thinking too much, like trying to especially when I'm on my new characters, things like Ana, just play Ana. Just don't worry about all the intricacies, all the things you've been trying to learn. Just hope it all comes together for this match and just focus on having fun.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like the comps and stuff is one thing that you notice is kind of a difference. Is there any like transference between the two teams? Like, are there comps that you become familiar with on Extinction that you kind of bring in to use in or on the Dilcux, or vice versa? Maybe like the more experimental things that you find in Calling All Heroes that you then kind of transfer over to OWCS?
I would say typically it's the other way around, where I'll bring my OWCS knowledge to the Dilcux. So like any CAW team I previously had, I would try to bring the learnings that I had done on Extinction and just general lessons and like macro stuff, like how you're supposed to play Kiri Wuyang. I would transfer that knowledge to my teammates and just try to get them on like a general same page of like, okay, the Wuyang is supposed to play with the Tracer here, but when we're playing retake, Kiri should go with Tracer to do X, Y, or Z. Like that's the type of knowledge that I would try to put on them, but I wouldn't stress it too hard. Like I would just say like, okay, make it very simple. I'm going to play with Tracer. You play with this guy and you help our tank. And in general, people just, they just accept it. Like they know that whatever I'm learning and whatever Z has learned on Sakura, like that's the highest level of play. And if we're able to beat, the highest level teams in OWCS, we're going to be able to beat whoever in Calling All Heroes. So a big thing is like confidence. Like in CAW, I'm so confident that I'm able to beat any of those teams. Whereas in OWCS, sometimes against a team like Geekay, like you're not confident that you're going to go in and stomp. And you need that type of overwhelming confidence if you're going to win in these type of games.
So you need to have a bigger ego in OWCS.
Yeah, you need to have an ego. That's kind of the basis of it.
Right. Now, I'm talking a little bit more about like the players in particular. There are a lot of players who you do actually see in both leagues. So for you, is there a bit of like an extra rivalry when you play these teams, or more of a desire to win?
There's a friendly competition there. There's like when I'm playing teams like especially Sakura, I feel that when I'm playing against Z and Zomba, who's my old teammate, and yeah, teams like Team Z, who are like Peace and Cinnabar from that team. Like I've known those people. I played games outside with those people. I played Valorant with those people. Like I want to just prove to them that I'm just as good as they think I am, and if not even better, right? I want them to respect me a little bit. I mean, they do. They're my friends. But it is all just friendly competition.
It's nice when you have the result to prove it.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can always bring it back later. When you're playing games with them later, you can be like, yeah, remember that match I won?
Yeah. You get the bragging rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Now, real quick, I want to look forward at what we have coming up because your next match is going to be against Space Station Gaming. And this is a match that could be a little bit easier than GK, but is still looking to be a pretty difficult one. So can you tell us a bit about how Extinction is kind of preparing for that and if there's anything that you are doing in particular?
I mean, I think the goal is always like improvement. And we think of Space Station as like, yeah, a top three team, like Team Liquid, Space Station, Geekay, those kind of top three. Like we're just trying to prove that we're on that level. So even if we don't take the match, like we're looking to take maps, we're looking to be as competitive as possible. We're looking to never. Sometimes you can just fall over and die. Like sometimes, like I think on New Queen Street, we got like a full cap or something. Like that just happens when you're against these good teams. Is they'll snowball their advantages, and you'll stop having the things that just work for you and the easy team fights, and like they just don't give you any of that. And so to be able to constantly bring it to the top teams is exactly what we're looking to do. So even if we're not 3-0ing Space Station next weekend, even if we don't take them to map 5, like we want to have good competitive maps against them and prove that like we have that level of play within us.
Right. Now, talking about like the different compositions that we see from your two teams, it seems like typically you guys play a lot of like Winston and Ball. Recently, you've been experimenting with the Hog, like we talked about. So how favorable do you think those matchups are into the Zarya comps that SSG they like to play?
That's actually one of our hardest matchups. We have never had good success into the off tank teams, especially like Space Station and just like any team that's running the Zarya, even if like Team Z with Astronex, like he's not exactly a Zarya player, but if they put him on Zarya, we've learned that like we're not good into those matchups. So we've had to go through a lot of struggle into like to look through our comps and be like, what characters can we swap around? And we've learned like the Symmetra seems to be a whole lot better into these kind of off tanky comps and like being able to burn through the tank because these off tanks they're so good at putting out damage, but they're not very good at taking damage. So like unless they're on like a Sigma type of comp, you can burn through a Zarya really fast. Like I think we've seen it in EMEA a lot recently, where it's like OWCS, they like playing their own like diva off tanky comps, but they also really like pulling out the Bastion against the Zarya. Like when they're against VP, they rock the Bastion sim and they just run over Vistola every single time. And that's something we're trying to take away and like apply to our own stuff. Is like, okay, what are we doing wrong against these type of teams? And when you're going against main tank teams like Infected, and when they're playing like Monkey and Wrecking Ball, those characters aren't very killable. They're very difficult to kill, especially when the person piloting it is very competent. But when they're on the Zarya, that's a very punishable character that you should look to punish because it puts out so much damage if you're not punishing it, right? And so yeah, I mean, I don't really remember what the original question was, but going against these off-tank teams, I think we've learned that it takes a different play style. You're no longer looking to just punish the enemy supports and like bypass the tank, but you're actually looking to punish the tank themselves for doing too much.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that is pretty much the question. Like, how favorable do you think the matchup is? So
yeah,
if it comes down to
I
play
don't think it's
style,
particularly
then
favorable, but I do think it's a matchup thing. There's just like 1 or 2 hero swaps and then a whole play style change.
it can be overcome with the right decisions.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, one other thing I do want to ask is about the most recent change that we saw from Extinction, which we might be seeing in the next, maybe not game, but in the next few weeks going forward, which is that Sniper has been brought onto the team.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about, how you're feeling about that? And again, for anyone who hasn't read the article yet, from what we know, it's a bit of an emergency signing with NVM getting...
I can kind of debrief what happened. So,
sure, yeah.
So never mind. We needed 3 players from our old roster, right?
Yes.
Kind of the whole Extinction roster got like revamped, but we needed 3 players from the old roster to keep our spot. So we have me, Hattori, and Nevermind. And Nevermind wasn't really planning on playing. We obviously got King, who's a really like well-rounded player. We don't really need to run those double flex setups because we have Vision. We're kind of playing towards a hit scanny, Hanzo-y type of role anyway. But he somehow got himself banned playing like off role. He said he's playing like Kiriko, and he types in mean words. And he got like permanently banned, and he tried to get it appealed, but it didn't work out. And yeah, they gave us like, I think somewhat graciously, they gave us like a whole extra spot to like fill up, and we had like 2 days max to fill it up. And Sniper is my teammate from the Dilcuck, so like over in Ka, and we've had a lot of success just playing off tanky comps with them. And particularly, I think Zarya is like really, really strong right now, and Hattori doesn't have those type of characters fully fleshed out like Sniper does. Like Sniper has a really good Sigma on them, they have a really good Diva on them, and while Hattori can pilot those characters, we want a strong Diva and we want a strong Zarya if we're going to try to force those comps. So it kind of has unlocked a whole new like set of compositions for us to play. We kind of like in the beginning of the season, we tried some Zarya, we tried some Diva, and we just ruled them out. We were like, okay, we're not a Zarya team, we're not a Diva team. But now there's kind of avenues have been they've been revealed again. Like we can probably try to start running those, see if they work out for us. I think especially the Zarya comps, I'm interested in running and just trying out. We have yet to have a scrim with Sniper. Again, it was like a very we had 48 hours or 24 hours or something to sign them. But I was tight with them. I just sent them a DM and they were like, yeah, I mean, I have nothing else going on. They're not even on a OWCS, like they're not even on a Face It Master team rather. So it was pretty easy signing.
Yeah. So with all that being said, is there a chance that we can still see Extinction kind of evolve even farther this stage?
Totally. I think you can see new comps. I think the meta itself still has room to evolve. I mean, maybe you see like Lucio Wuyang might all of a sudden be like the comp to run, and maybe you'll see me and Wuyang. Like, there's a lot of room to grow for sure. And like, I don't even know in any given week what comp will be running and what we think is best. But I think definitely a lot more off tank looks possibly with Sniper. A lot more Symmetra hopefully, because I think that character is broken. And hopefully some more of the same old good like Vision Hanzo. Would love to see that. Some Lucio Kiri. We're a really big fan of like the Once Again comp, which is like Lucio Kiri, Soj, Monkey, Tracer. Like that's a good solid fun comp that we
good
like
honest
to play.
Overwatch.
So yeah, that's some good honest Overwatch. So just like we're trying to give a lot of looks, trying to not to be too readable of a team, because I think even though Geekay has so much success, they're a really readable team. You know what they're going to look to play any given match and any given map. So even though we had we eventually got trashed by them, I think that being able to be a flexible team and to not like go into every map with like a comp gap essentially, where like the enemy comp just kind of wins in ores if they play it correctly. We can definitely look to like make some upsets happen, make just be a hard to read team that like going into playoffs hopefully will be threatening.
All right. Awesome. Well, that about wraps up all the questions I've had for you here today. But before I let you go, do you have any messages you want to put out there or anything you want to shout out?
I don't have anyone. Maybe I'll shout out the Yab people, Azraf and AST Design and Tennis and all of them, because they're playing in their facing game tonight, and I'm gonna go cheer them on. I'm really good friends with them, so cheering on Yab. Hopefully they make it far and face the playoffs.
There we go.
And that's it.
Support tier 2 Overwatch.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Scuffed, thank you so much for joining us here today. You've been incredibly insightful, and it's been amazing to hear all this information from you.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. And with that, we do come to the end of an episode. But before you go, make sure that you check out Scuffed on their social media, as well as Extinction, so you can follow all their games, keep up to date with the matches, and see exactly what's going to be going on next time Extinction steps back onto the battlefield. And of course, make sure you follow OWTVGG on all our social platforms, so you can keep an eye out for more interviews just like this one, and you can find out what's going on behind the scenes with your favorite teams and your favorite players. But again, that's going to be all for today. So thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you back next time.
Bye-bye.